YouTube vinyl community, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about the brand new Ted Leo album, The Hanged Man, released on Ted Leo Records. Let's call it that. This is the first Ted Leo album since 2010, and the first one released under like just his own name, I think, ever. This was done through Kickstarter. He set up a Kickstarter account, I think, at the end of last year, and had a goal in mind of what he wanted to reach, and then surpassed that goal by a ton. So he was able to put out this really, really nice package. It's a gatefold. It's a big, giant set with really nice pictures and artwork and lyrics. And he's going to use the rest of the money to go into promotion and touring and T-shirts and the whole thing. He's ready to get back out there. Here's what's happened in the meantime. In 2010, their last album came out by Ted Leo and the Pharmacist. It was called The Brutalist Bricks, and it's a fantastic album. And then he kind of disappeared for a while. We didn't hear a lot about him or what was going on beyond the occasional update here and there. In 2014, he came out with a new album with Amy Mann, and they made a band called The Both, and they put out this record that was really good. You know, decent pop sensibilities and good songwriting, and it has the best of both worlds with both Amy Mann's really, really great songwriting, and then Ted Leo's also really great songwriting, and melding those two worlds together, I think, was a cool combination. So that was out for a while, and then they toured for that, and then a little bit of nothing here and there. They played the occasional show every once in a while, either Ted solo with a couple of the pharmacists here and there, and overall, that was it. There wasn't a whole lot of news happening. Fast forward to 2016, and actually more specifically this year, and we get some of the first interviews with Ted about his life and what's been happening in the meantime. And a lot had happened. Lots of problems with his previous label, Matador, having either dropped him or he just kind of lost contact with them. There's some confusion on that one. And the biggest issue was what happened between him and his wife. They had lost their daughter. She died prematurely at birth, or before she did, it was a miscarriage. So there was a really long, awful period for the two of them to pick up the pieces and try to figure out how to move forward with this really horrible, traumatic situation that happened. And we also learned from Ted about a lot of things that happened to him as a child that never came out before. So he's had a really, really introspective and hard couple of years, actually more than that, almost 6-7 years now. So the resulting album, The Hanged Man, that title can mean a lot. This album is both heavy in terms of its content and also its musicality. The musicianship on this album, I think, is one of the best things that's ever had the Ted Leo name on it. Lyrics, too. I think some of the best lyrics he's ever written. So, without further ado, let's jump in. This album opens with a song called Moon Out of Phase, and that was written about and on, it was written the day after the 2016 election in which Trump won. And, yeah, he was basically trying to comprehend what the future was going to be like. Political leanings aside, whatever side you're on, it's been different ever since he got in. So, obviously Ted is not the biggest fan, and he wrote this song to be like, all right, well, what's our place in the world going to be like now that this guy is in charge, and how are we going to relate, how are we going to be better people, how are we going to move forward? And it felt like a stopgap. It felt like the world kind of stopped, and a lot of people felt that way. So to hear it in music like that, because you get this really chugging, lurching guitar that does not relent. It just plows through like it's trying to run through quicksand the entire time. And, the lyrics echo a world in which a person feels like he's been punched in the throat or kicked in the throat by a horse or something. It's just like, you're out. And you're like, how am I going to get back up and get through this? It's a really simple song. There aren't a whole lot of instruments on it besides a couple of like tambourines or chimes or bells once in a while. But like overall, it's just a guitar. And then you get these like choral vocal harmonies during the choruses, and they just shine like a bunch of angels who have been like totally defeated, and they're like, well, we're kind of on our last wings of hope here. Let's see where we can go. Um, very, very depressive tone, um, very strong song, and it kind of sets the theme a little bit for the album. Um, yeah, and I use that loosely because there is a lot of personal strife on this album. Maybe that's where I'm going with it on that. The second song, "Used to Believe," this song has like a bit of a, one foot in the old, one foot in the new musical approach, where it sounds like classic Ted Leo, but it sounds like him now, which is a cool feeling. It doesn't sound like he's trying to repeat himself. Really good guitars. The song is about like perceptions of yourself, looking forward, and then once you get there, you look back and realize things maybe didn't go the way you thought they would have, or changed, and things about yourself that you had a goal in mind to get to, and then once you got there, you realize, oh, maybe this isn't what I wanted, or maybe I'm a different person now, or something. Um, Really cool fade out chorus. There's great strings at the end, and there's a chorus of down, down, down at the end, which sort of echoes the sentiment of the whole song, which I really enjoy. Track 3 in this thing, "Can't Go Back." It's also the lead-off single. "You're Like Me" was the first song released for this album, but "Can't Go Back" is the first actual single, I think, from this album with a video. And it's one of Ted's best videos. He does this whole like 70s cheesy, mail order album thing on a commercial that you would have seen like back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, where you can call in and order this album. And so he does this fake like infomercial for his own song. But the song itself is one of the best songs I think Ted's ever written. It's fun, it's catchy, it's tight, it's full of life, it's got gut-wrenching, expressive lyrics. This song itself is almost like a battle hymn, where it's about a guy who has literally looked out across an ocean and thought about life, and wondered where it's going to go or where he's been, and then realizing things didn't work out the way he wanted to. So it's almost like a companion to "Used to Believe," but it's so much more. It's a total standout, and it's a total earworm, and some of the most impressive vocals he's ever done on this song, for sure. I can go on and on and on about this song, how much it sounds like The Jam or the Style Council, or, there's a 60s soul feel, great pianos on it, excellent song. The next song, "The Future," which the whole name of it is "The Future is Learning to Wait Around for Things You Didn't Know You Wanted to Wait For." So that's just rolls right up the tongue. This song to me sounds like if Hearts of Oak Ted was trying to write a song at 46 years old, and that's a compliment for sure. This song sounds like it could have fit on this album, or on that album, had he written it, back then. Another one foot in the old, one foot in the new syndrome. But musically, I think it's one of the coolest songs he's written in a long time. I love that long chorus line of "The future is learning to wait around for things you didn't know you wanted to wait for." Repeating that over and over again, and kind of makes like a hypnotic feel. And I think the lyrics are great in this song. William Weld in the 21st Century is a really somber, acoustic, slow-paced song about William Weld, who was like the Libertarian Party's nominee for vice president in 2016, I think with Gary Johnson. And so I'm trying to figure this song out more. I think it's like a telling from his point of view that like maybe the world that this guy wanted doesn't exist or won't exist. I'm having a hard time trying to figure this one out. The Nazarene is a really mostly piano-led track. There are some guitars and drums that happen later on. I think there's a really deep story here, and again, I know a lot of this album is being introspective and thinking about his life over the years, but especially over the last several years. And in that time, I think he's thought about his life overall. So the Nazarene, I still think that song needs more time for me to try to figure out what's happening. I don't want to give an assessment of it where I'm not super sure about that song. The next song, "Run to the City." This is an excellent song about how New York City is too freaking expensive to live anymore, and Ted and his wife basically had to leave there because there's no way you can afford there. It's insanely stupid expensive to live in New York City, but you have these dreams, or you used to have these dreams where you can be, yeah, I'm going to run to New York City, I'm going to live there, I'm going to, live poor and cheap and have a great time and be an actor or be a musician or, do some sort of grassroots approach to, being political or active or something. Um, that dream used to exist. That was a thing you can do. Now it's impossible, and especially with all the, I guess you can call it gentrification of New York City, where especially places like, down in the village, Greenwich Village area, they're tearing down so much of the history of that place to put up like a frozen yogurt place or a Starbucks or another frozen yogurt place. Like that area used to be so integral to the heartbeat of arts, and now it's just like completely going away. You can't live there anymore. I mean, Bleecker Street Records had to close because they couldn't afford the rent. At one point, I think the rent was like $1 million a month or something. It's ridiculous. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's up there. So yeah, this song is about how you want to go to the city, and then you realize you can't live there anymore, and the final lines of the song are "Run from the city," which I thought was interesting. Grey Havens starts off the second record on side C. This is a really tender, polite guitar that cradles really delicate verses, and strings pour in eventually, and then eventually you get to this like EDM style drum beat that completely takes the song in a whole new direction, and it's very infectious and fun to listen to. It gives a whole different vibe to the track. Make Me Feel Loved. Again, still trying to figure this one out. I love the emotion in it. I love the breathy, laboring tension. It's loose, but it's really tight at the same time. And again, the lyrics, there's a story to this one. I'm not sure if this was a story about someone he knew or someone in his life. Again, Ted, you're putting a lot into this one. Little Smug Supper Club. Ted has gone on to say this is one of the oldest songs on this album. He's actually been playing this song on and off since 2009 or 10. I think he had the song before the Brutalist Bricks, so it's an older song. Oops, just kicked my chair. And to me, this is his version of Positively 4th Street. I think there's some group of people he may have used to hung out with that either changed or did something different or were kind of putting down their own past or something, and he kind of got fed up with that. It's the vibe I get from this one. Anthems of None. Musically, Ted has also said this is another old song where the music for it was pretty old, and he's changed the lyrics over the years. I wish I had a better answer for this one too, beyond the fact that I really like it, and it's really wordy. Which leads me up to the last three songs, You're Like Me, Lonsdale Avenue, and Let's Go to the Moon, or Let's Stay on the Moon. That's all on side D, and side D I think is the heaviest thing he's ever recorded or put out that we have available. You're Like Me, I don't remember if he said specifically that the song was about this, but other people have said that this is the first time Ted's ever addressed like when he was sexually harassed as a kid. Which is absolutely awful, and it's about how you have this secret you feel like you have to keep and you can't tell anybody about it, and you live growing up knowing that you might not be able to get help for things that you feel you're scared to address or were vulnerable about, and saying, hey, you're not alone, you're like me, like if you've gone through this, then I understand and I sympathize with you, I know what it's like. And then the last two songs, Lonsdale Avenue and Let's Stay on the Moon, directly address the loss of their daughter, which are very heartbreaking and very sad songs. And I saw Ted live a few weeks ago. I'm recording this in November of 2017. I saw him live a few weeks ago, and he said that he went to play Lonsdale Avenue, and then he was like, this is the second most depressing song I've ever written. Then when they did Let's Stay on the Moon, he said, this is the most depressing song I've ever written. And Lonsdale Avenue, there's a really interesting line in that song where he says, here's a guy who would move mountains for this girl, and that's not happening anymore, so I have to go shovel snow. I'm paraphrasing, but, someone who would have done anything to be there for this kid and to feel a whole new sense of what love could be, and to have that be taken away and then just go back to normal life where, I guess let's go shovel snow. Let's Stay on the Moon is also another direct addressing where he even says we had a daughter and she died, which is like when you first hear that you're like, oh my god, like it's it's heavy. You feel for him. And he did also say that he, as he was writing the song, he was trying to cover up. I guess he felt, it's a heavy thing to put into words, and so he kind of covered it up with this like space story, this sci-fi feel to it. Even though I see that, but I also see it as just like a delicate way to address a really intense situation. And the last ending refrains of "Let's stay on the moon and watch the Earth go down." It's like you just want some peace, you just want some stability, you just want to figure yourself out. Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful things Ted's ever written, and it comes from an absolutely terrible place. But um, it's one of the most amazing songs that he's ever put out. Yeah, I mean, this is an absolutely amazing album. I'm totally biased because I'm a huge Ted Leo fan. I've been following him since 2003, I think, when Hearts of Oak came out. So I've been there for a long time, and seeing him live again was like seeing a bunch of old friends. Which I told him that I was like, it was like seeing a bunch of old friends. He's got a couple of new people in the band, and they were absolutely phenomenal in the group. I love their live setup right now. I think it's one of the best versions of the band I've ever seen, and that was one of the best shows I've ever seen them do. But here's the inside cover with some really fantastic artwork, absolutely beautiful artwork, and back cover. Sorry about the glare. But the detail that went into this album, I mean, the inner sleeves all have the words on them, and some more great pictures. The labels are awesome, where they put the moon in different phases, which I thought was very cool. And even the inside of the jacket is detailed. I don't know if you can tell this or not, but you can see a little bit. It's like red on the inside. It's red drawings on the inside. So no expense was spared putting this thing out to make it look as amazing as possible. And yeah, it's probably one of my favorite Ted Leo albums. I think I mean, part of me is also like, yay, new Ted Leo, it's been so long. And another part of me is like, wow, this is actually really, really good. The only thing I might be like negative about, I'm not a big fan of William Weld in the 21st Century. For me, it's a little bit of a slow-paced song, and not my favorite. I think it's an interesting song, but it's probably not my favorite. The Nazarene, I need to figure that one out some more and kind of see where that one's going. There's a lot on this album, story-wise, that I'm still trying to figure out, which I think is good. I don't think an album should be completely upfront with you. Here's everything there is, and by the time it's done, you're like, yep, I got it. It's like, no, go back, listen to it again, enjoy it for years, still discover new things as you go. So I think this is one of those albums, and I think all of his albums are like that. Really, there's a lot to dissect and ingest, really. I'd give this a 9 out of 10. Totally biased because I'm a huge Ted Leo fan, but I really do think this is one of his best albums and one of his most solid, cohesive bodies of work for sure. This is one of his most intense bodies of work because it came from a really intense period of his life. So if you've never heard Ted before, I don't know if I would start with this album, but this might be like the second album I would jump in. I would jump in with like Shake the Sheets or Hearts of Oak or maybe even Tyranny of Distance. But this would be like, probably second or third in the routine of getting into Ted. I think when you get through those first couple of other albums like previously, then jumping into this one makes a little more sense. But I could be completely wrong. You might just love this if it's your first time checking them out. This whole thing was done through a Kickstarter campaign, like I said. So I'm really stoked to see what else comes from the rewards package. The one I did was the record, and I think it came with a t-shirt, a tote bag, a signed postcard or something. So waiting for part 2 of the rewards to come in. But I'm pretty sure you can get this in stores now. You can definitely get it on his website, and if you see him on tour, you can pick it up there too. So that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been Album Reviews and Ted Leo, the Hanged Man. I'm really happy that he's got new music out. It's bittersweet because a lot of it comes from a really sad place, but unfortunately, sometimes the hardest things in life make for some of the most amazing art. And yeah. So with that said, that's it. 9 out of 10. Ted Leo, the Hangman. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Giggens. This has been Album Reviews. I'll see you next time. Thanks.